he wants to present. Even though his journey to India, the story is very famous, but Ishivachara, Huaxiang School is not very popular, never been popular in China, but we can talk about it later. Now I'm going to talk about another topic, Machaminka. Machaminka is a little bit more popular. Okay? Actually, if anyone want to know about Buddhism in China, Korea, Japan, or in Tibet, you have to know Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna is considered to be the second Buddha. There are many different Mahayana schools in China, Korea, Japan, Hawaii, Vietnam also. Each Mahayana school claimed that their patriarch or their philosophy and their practice come from Nagarjuna. So today, I try my best to present Chinese Sanlun Machaminka to you, and how this Sanlun Machaminka school relates to Zen Buddhism, and how this philosophy can continue, not just influence the development of Buddhism in China, can have a good relationship and discussion with the Western culture. Now we talk about East-West relationship, we can talk about this. Or I should introduce myself. Originally, I come from Taiwan, okay? And I spent almost more than 40 years. I taught the University of Hawaii here, University over here. I'm very grateful to University of Hawaii because University of Hawaii promote East-West cultural communication. So we have a research council at Manoa and research council at Hilo, encourage faculty members to go out to do the research, to present the paper. And I was very fortunate. I live in Hawaii, so I have opportunity to get the money to go out of Hawaii and to visit many different countries to deliver different papers. That's the reason why I'm so productive in my publication. And here is one of the collection of my writing by the National Taiwan University. And I was invited to be a visiting professor at National Taiwan University and talk about Buddhism. And I study Buddhism as if I'm a Buddhist. I study Confucianism as if I am a Confucianist. I study Taoism as if I am Taoist. It turned out that it seemed that I seem to be better than the Buddhist. And I know better than the Confucianist. I know better than Taoist, surprisingly. So in my class, students ask me, Professor Chen, are you a Buddhist, Confucianist, Taoist, or Christian? Okay, I say I am a scholar. I do my best, try to do the research. My focus on important textbooks. I don't just follow my own preconceived idea to talk about Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, or Christianity. No, I do my best. So today I want to bring your attention to the important writing given by Nagarjuna. And very unfortunate, in the past, whenever I believe in Japan, too, talk about Mahayana Buddhism, you have to know Sanskrit, okay? And you do your best to expound original so-called Mahayana Buddhism from Sanskrit textbooks. But today I want to tell you, unfortunately, most of the Sanskrit scriptures disappear in India, right? And not many important Sanskrit writing exists in India. And Buddhism disappear in India. Okay? But Buddhism continued to be very popular in China, Korea, Japan, right? Before Buddhism disappeared in India, major important Buddhist scripture has been translated into Chinese. So as far as the source is concerned, actually, Chinese provide better sources for understanding of Mahayana Buddhism or even Theravada Buddhism. But surprisingly, in the past, a scholar assumed in order to know Indian Buddhism, you got to study Sanskrit scripture, Sanskrit term also. Okay, so for example, D.T. Suzuki talk about Zen Buddhism. He will appear to Sanskrit scripture, Avatamsaka Sutra or Lotus Sutra or something like that, to show he has a good understanding of origin source of Zen Buddhism. Okay, and for example, the first panel and for this conference, and the scholar, okay, talk about this. But here I want to tell you, to have good understanding of the Zen Buddhism, okay, you got to have a different approach, because Nagarjuna philosophy are better presented and promoted in his book or 12-gate treatise. Nagarjuna writing, okay, Nagarjuna writing, many writings, but when Kumarajiva is the best known scholar, okay, who translates the Indian scripture to Chinese. He considered in order to know Nagarjuna writing, one has to study not just middle treatise, Madhyamika Karikas. Okay, we have to know 12-gate treatise and 100 treatises written by his disciple. Okay, and when I'm doing the research, I consider the 12-gate treatise is very, very important. But unfortunately, not many people know about this one. I did the research on this book 42 years ago, published the book 42 years ago. And surprisingly, okay, the importance of understanding of the Nagarjuna and importance of 12-gate treatise acknowledged actually 42 years ago by the Indian scholar. Okay, so my publication was published in the Cambridge, Oxford, academic journals. Okay, I think even D.T. Suzuki have never have an article scholarly presented in this scholarly journal, but they are already interested. And surprisingly, I just discovered 2 weeks ago, actually just 1 week ago, this one was make it in 29 videotape. You can turn to the YouTube under my name. You can find this one. That means show that it is very essential to know, this book in order to know even Madhyamika and Nagarjuna philosophy of emptiness. Okay, now let me go back to the title we have today. The key title of this conference, Brahma, right? Actually, this is the key concern in Buddhism. Trauma in Buddhism is called dukkha. Okay? Buddha's Dharma is presented primarily when to deal with the problem of suffering or trauma. Okay? And this is a medical issue in a way, but it's also a philosophical issue. Not only the philosophical issue, it is a religious issue. And in China, since May 4 movement, we live in the age of reason, okay? And we ought to have a rational approach to our culture. Religion is based upon the faith or feeling or intuition, not based on reason. So those who promote Chinese philosophy, they say, the typical character of Chinese philosophy is philosophy without religion. And as you know, that the famous leader of the Maple movement, Tai Yuanpei, we want to use art to replace, okay, religion. This becomes the major movement, mentality among Chinese scholars. Therefore, Chinese, unfortunately, didn't pay attention seriously to have religious study in China. And I am the one of the few persons, and maybe because I come to Hawaii. I come to Hawaii, I teach, comparative philosophy and comparative religion. So I have to talk about Buddhism. Yeah, I got to know the Buddhism. And I have to talk about Confucianism, so I have to talk about Confucianism. And I have to talk about, Hinduism or Taoism. I have to study all of this. And especially, I have to make a comparison among these different, religions. So I want to study Indian Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, because Mahayana Buddhism is more popular in Japan, in Hawaii too. The more I study, I discover Mahayana Buddhism, okay, in Korea, Japan, Hawaii, are not Indian Buddhism. Okay, sorry, I have to say that. The Mahayana Buddhism in China, Korea, Japan, and Hawaii, I call it the Buddhism developed in Afghanistan. So I call it Afghanistan Buddhism. Okay? So Madhyamika philosophy, Madhyamika teaching is Afghanistan Madhyamika. And Buddhism developed in Tibet later is Tibetan Madhyamika, Dharmaism, something like that. Okay. Okay, now we go back to the title we have. Suffering is a key issue in Buddhism. Suffering is medical issue. It is also religious issue and a philosophical issue. In order to deal with the problem of suffering, Buddha assumed and accept principle of causality. Whatever happened, there must be the cause of its happening. So suffering, there must be the cause of suffering. The first normal truth is suffering. Second normal truth is the cause of suffering. If we can handle the cause of suffering, or we can handle the trauma, then we can get rid of the trauma, right? So the third normal truth is the cessation of suffering. right? Okay, now the important here is, in order to deal with the problem of trauma, suffering, and get rid of this problem, we have to find a way, right? So the fourth normal truth, number four, number two is the way leading to the what? Cessation of suffering. In other words, four normal truths given by Gautama Buddha is based upon fundamental philosophical principle of causality. Whatever happens, there must be the cause of happening. And similar causes produce similar effects, right? Okay? So if we have good behavior, we have a good consequence. If we have bad behavior, we have bad consequence. Therefore, Buddhists try their best to have a good behavior. To have meditation, to have whatever they are doing, okay, in order to have a good consequence. Okay, so causality, Buddha once said, if you want to know my teaching, you got to know Pratitya Sampara. Okay, that means causality. So causality is the central philosophy of early Buddhism or Theravada Buddhism. Okay, and causality, causation, also is chief soteriology. Soteriology means to handle, to handle the problem of suffering, to get rid of suffering. So causality has been central philosophy of Theravada Buddhism, and also is a central soteriology in traditional Buddhism. Okay. So enlightenment is to know causality. To handle the causality is a way to solve the problem of suffering. Nagarjuna, considered to be the second Buddha, even though ordinary people may not know about his name. He is the father of Kyudan Buddhism. He is the father of Tentai Buddhism. He is the father of Huaxiang Buddhism. He is the father of Yogacara Buddhism. He is the father of, other, Mahayana school, or even the father of Tibetan Dharmaism, right? Okay, he's considered. But unfortunately, Buddhism disappeared in India. Many of the Sanskrit scripture disappeared in India. Okay, but before disappearance of the Buddhism in India, many Sanskrit scripture were translated into Chinese, especially by Kumarajiva, right? Early 5th century. Okay, according to Kumarajiva, in order to know Nagarjuna philosophy of emptiness, one have to study Nagarjuna middle treatise, 12 treatise, and 100 treatise. 3 main textbooks you got to study together in order to know Nagarjuna philosophy of emptiness. Okay. And these 3 textbooks have to study together. Therefore, those who focus on study of these 3 textbooks in order to know Nagarjuna philosophy of emptiness is known as Sandun school, 3 treatise school. And the key, very important philosophical teaching in the three textbooks is argument, logical argument. Today, we are very interested in logical argument. The Western philosopher also interested in logical argument. And this good logical argument are well presented in Purgatory treatise. As I say, I just discovered this one last week. Western people gradually realize you cannot depend upon Sanskrit to know Mahayana philosophy because original source disappeared. And they don't, not many people expound this one. Who expound Nagarjuna philosophical argument is in Chinese textbook, very treat. Okay, scholar even debate. Okay, whether Nagarjuna is really against Theravada Buddhism or not. It's not clear about this point. And they debate whether Nagarjuna is from nothingness or whether for absolute reality, is explainable or not. 12 treatise, if you read it, you find out. The beginning of 12 treatise says, we are going to talk about Mahayana Buddhism. Why Mahayana Buddhism is Mahayana Buddhism? Very important. Mahayana Buddhism is superior to Theravada traditional Buddhism. Okay? So Madhyamika dialectic want to show that. In what way? Philosophically speaking, we understand that causality is empty. Okay? We want to use emptiness instead of causality as a key philosophy. The philosophy of emptiness. Emptiness as key philosophy, emptiness as key theology. Okay? This is a very important point. And how we want to know that one? 12 treatise clearly want to show, okay, causality, number one, is intellectually not justified. Empirically, it's not verified. Causality is empty. So Mahayana Buddhism is superior to previous Buddhism. In what way? Because we know causality is not acceptable. Causality actually is a new conceptual attachment. Okay? And that not only do not help us to get rid of the suffering, instead create a new suffering. We just waste our time in meditation. We waste our time in the cave. We waste our time observing the moral precepts, okay, set by the Buddha, okay. So we should get rid of this philosophical idea and these theologies. And Nagarjuna, okay, argue. And his point is developed by Chinese Shandong masters. Not only causality is empty, all consideration are empty. In what way? Rationality is not rational. Logic is not logical. And that is very important point. I think the reason why, those scholars, okay, and the scholar in the Cambridge and the Oxford University, they are so interested in my papers. Is because, as you know, that contemporary philosophy, most famous one in the Europe, okay, one is a logical positivism, right? Dr. Russell, Wittgenstein, logical positivism, they're interested in logic. Nagarjuna interrogated to show logic is not logical. Rational is not rational. All the concepts are not acceptable and not justifiable. Any statement consists of, I just simplify, consists of subject and the predicate. 像以口相, subject and the predicate. Very interesting examine in the 12 treatise. Subject and predicate. Every sentence consists of X is X or X is not X. The subject is a predicate or subject is not the predicate. If subject is the predicate, then predication is what? Tautological. Say nothing about. If you say X is X, you say nothing, right? If you say predicate is different from the subject, so in other words, X is not X. X is Y. That means they are different. How come to be and not to be can be put at the same place at the same time? That is what? Contradictory and absurdity. Okay? So Chinese master, Chinese Zen master, examine the nature of rationality, nature of the reasonableness, nature of logic to show that logic is not logical, is the conventional. And this approach, in a way, is similar to Wittgenstein approach. Wittgenstein initially followed Bertrand Russell. For the Western scholar, for 1,000 years, logic is necessarily true. There are two kinds of truth. One is logical truth, necessary truth. Another, or mathematical truth, is necessary. Okay, and empirical truth is contingent truth. Okay? Have been accepted this way. The Wittgenstein, he wrote tractates. One to use a logical form, to present his philosophical idea. Then he discovered that is not right. Okay, so in this way, you find a similarity between Nagarjuna approach and Wittgenstein approach, but actually, it not have a similarity, but Nagarjuna viewpoint is more advanced than that. Okay, in what way? Okay, in what sense is more approach? Emptiness, usually considered to be a noun. Propositional approach must be a noun. So emptiness, scholar in the past consider emptiness as a noun. This noun stands for nothingness or stands for inexplicable reality. So in other words, in the past, those who depend upon Sanskrit sources, not 12-gate tweeters, I just use a 12-gate tweeter as an example. They argue, is philosophy of emptiness is nihilism or absolutism, right? Or they consider emptiness as adjective. All things are empty. Is for optimistic view of the universe or pessimistic view of the universe. Nothing is variable or nothing is variable. Okay, something like that. So debate about optimistic viewpoint or non-optimistic viewpoint. And some Christian scholar use this one to interpret the Old Testament. Okay, to interpret the Old Testament. All things are vanity, vanity is vanity. That means no value, right? Okay, something like that. Nagarjuna emptiness, according to Dandu Master, is not the adjective either. Emptiness, empty. Emptiness, better known as a verb, rather than as noun or adjective. That means to empty means to get rid of. To empty is to evacuate your mind, to get rid of your conceptual attachment. So it is not right to debate whether philosophy of emptiness is nihilism, absolutism, is pessimism, or optimism. They are all not quite accurate. Emptiness is a true. according to Chandru Master, emptiness is a medicine. It's a medicine. When somebody gets sick, you give the medicine. You want to examine, say, is medicine stand for nothingness or stand for absolute reality? Is medicine is pessimistic or optimistic? Doesn't make any sense, right? So emptiness is a medicine. It's a medicine. Emptiness should emptiness is empty. Mean what? It does not necessarily mean absolute reality interpreted by many scholars. Emptiness simply means medicine. After you eat the medicine, you are arguing what is the nature of medicine? It is optimistic or pessimistic. It is for absolute reality or not. It's off the point. Okay, it's off the point. Okay. Okay, now, because of time, I just shortly mention this one. Therefore, if anyone rationalize, ontologize anything, to be get rid of this philosophy. Later on, did Chinese Zen Buddhists to say Buddha taught 45 years. He never opened the mouth, right? He opened the mouth or not? Never opened the mouth. All his teaching to be considered only the medicine. When you meet the Buddha, you kill the Buddha. Okay? When you meet patriarch, you kill the patriarch, right? Many people want to use Taoist philosophy to interpret Zen Buddhism and miss the point. Okay? So Zen Buddhism is different. Okay? What is Tao? Everyday mindedness. Tao. So in other words, okay, one should get rid of all attachment, okay, in order to do that. So here, because of time, I just mentioned over here, okay. In other words, Nagarjuna philosophy disappeared in India, well developed in China. Unfortunately, most of scholars fail to see that this well better development, okay, in China, and neglected not just by the other scholar, by Chinese too. And in order to have better understanding of Zen Buddhism, that's an example. Better understanding of this Sandun Madhyamika or Sandun, okay, Nagarjuna philosophy. Okay, that is the point today I want to say. Okay. So,
anyone has any questions?
yes.
Are you okay by the originally assisted?
Twelve treatises were introduced, were written by Nagarjuna.
So you think it was
That I think the interpret by now. That is how Kumarajiva, when you translate Nagarjuna philosophy from Sanskrit source or whatever source, okay, into Chinese, he first Twelve treatises first, then he translates the middle treatise.
I think that you think that Madhyamaka is
the Madhyamika we understand is from Afghanistan because most of the textbook written in Sanskrit did not exist in India before. All the scripture were written, okay, in Sanskrit from 1st century AD on. So in that sense, the Sanskrit Mahayana Buddhism is not the Indian Mahayana Buddhism, not the Indian Buddhism. We should put it this way.
You don't think that
No, Nagarjuna live in not Afghanistan. Okay, it's the main place develops what we know are Parjya Paramitas. That is northwestern part of India. And Nagarjuna live in southern part of India. Southern part of India. And this philosophy was introduced to China without going through Afghanistan. Afghanistan became the main part of Persian metaphysics, Greek captured Greek philosophy because Alexander the Great, occupied Afghanistan. Okay, and plus that Indian metaphysics, all this mixed together. Okay, so this Buddhism, in a sense, is something new, created in Afghanistan. So I call it Afghanistan Mahayana Buddhism. This term has never been used before, but I want to bring out attention, Afghanistan Mahayana Buddhism. Don't confuse with Buddhism in India. Don't confuse Buddhism in Nepal. When I taught Buddhism before Hawaii at Ohio University, I had many students took my class. One student, good student in the front, I say Buddhism originated in India. And the student say, no, Professor Chen, you are wrong. India, did not start from India, from my country, Nepal. He's a student from Nepal. Okay, so I said, you are right. Okay, the Buddhism initially is from Nepal, not from India. Okay, so this gave me a very deep impression. Yeah, the Buddhism we know today is different from Buddhism we know in Nepal. Buddhism spread to different countries. New scripture were created. Okay, a new Buddhist school was developed. Okay, so when you spread to Afghanistan, Sanskrit scripture was written. This never exists in India, never exists in Nepal either. But scholars, surprisingly, they don't pay attention to this one. They didn't pay attention to the Mahayana Buddhism we know today. Is Afghanistan Mahayana Buddhism. Okay, for example, D.D. Suzuki want to say, I want to restore the original Indian Buddhist philosophy. Okay, that is found in Avatanska Sutra or Lotus Sutra. Come on, Afghanistan Sutra number 1 do not exist in India. Number 2, Afghanistan Avatanska Sutra, Lotus Sutra did not create it 500 years before created in Afghanistan. In other words, Avatanska Sutra, Lotus Sutra, pure Buddhist scripture, which is popular in Japan, in Hawaii too, did not exist in India or in Nepal, but created Afghanistan. So I call it Afghanistan Buddhism. This is a new term. We should keep this in mind. And for example, Hawaii here, we have Bon Festival, right? Bon Festival. Bon dance here. Yeah, right. Bon is not party term. Bong is not Sanskrit term. Bong is what? Persian term. Bong dance, you don't see bong dance in Nepal. You don't see bong dance in India. Bong dance created in Afghanistan. So in other words, the Buddhism in Hawaii or Buddhism in Japan, okay, did not come from Nepal, did not come from India. Instead, were created, okay, in Afghanistan. So I call it Afghanistan Buddhism, okay? And unfortunately, not many scholars pay attention to this one. Okay, yeah. What? Oh, Dhananda University, okay, that is the place developed that Yogacara school. That is about when Xuanzang, when Xuanzang, he want to really want to know original Indian Buddhism. So he traveled through what? Afghanistan. Okay. Then later on he moved to that school. At that time, Buddhism, as Xuanzang say, almost disappeared in India. And he know better than Indian Buddhists. So he became the teacher. As a matter of fact, okay, I tell you, say that the student, okay, you come to United States, okay, study Western philosophy. You can say you better than Westerner about Western philosophy, become the teacher. Xuanzang can become the teacher, and he debate with other Brahman, people. And he won the debate, so-called he won the debate through Yogacara viewpoint, okay? Debate. They show what? India at that time already no good. Okay, any other question?
Yeah, maybe I'll